Assalamu alaikum everyone, I hope you're doing well, and I'm here today with the analysis of The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. So I have been reading this novel for the past 2 months now. I've been reading and rereading some of its sections, and I have found it to be one of the most amazing novels that I read in 2022. And I just wanted to wrap it up really nicely before the end of the year so that I can look back at this video and think about my reflections and reflect on it a little bit more, because I need to say this, that no matter how much I try to read it deeply and no matter how much I try to discuss it with my students and with other people that are interested in reading, I feel that there is so much more that needs to be explored. And because this novel, although when you read it, this is the best thing about it, by the way, when you read this novel, it appears to be really simple as far as its narrative structure is concerned. The vocabulary, the diction that the writer uses is quite simple. It's easy to gulp down, I would say, and you can read it in a go as well. Like, it doesn't take you a lot of time to read this novel. It is an easy read in that sense, but it is not an easy read when it comes to interpreting it, or when it comes to understanding it, and when it comes to deconstructing so many different ideas that the writer has talked about. And even in the space of so little pages, she tries to present you with a wholesome sort of a character or a situation that has so many sides to it, that has so many perspectives to it, that one needs to really sit down and talk about it or write about it. So without further ado, I would like to go into this, into the novel, and I would like to explore it a little bit with you guys as well. But before that, I would like to also ask you to like this video if you actually enjoy watching it, and also subscribe to my channel if you have not already. So firstly, we must discuss the paratextual features of the novel, the forewords and the foreword. There's one foreword. I think that was published later on. Toni Morrison did not publish the foreword as she was publishing the novel at first. And we must also keep in mind that Toni Morrison, if you don't know about her, she is an African American writer. She is a black writer, and the things that she talks about mostly are racism, interracial racism, intraracial racism. I will explain this bit in a while, and other things like the economic circumstances that force people to take certain actions or to do certain things. And she also likes to talk about in detail the psychological sides of her characters. Most of her characters live in their heads, and this is something that we see in her novel Beloved as well as this one, The Bluest Eye. The first thing that I would like to share here is the paratextual features, like I mentioned. So the foreword itself is quite telling of what is to come in the novel, but I will not be discussing the foreword. You can read it yourself and you can make it you can make a meaning out of it if you want to. I will not talk about it because that is I think a foreword is always something that's quite personal. So every reader interprets that foreword according to their personality, and it is some sort of a personal note between the author and the reader. And I think that every reader should go through it and make meaning out of it as much as they want to. And it is also a sort of a disclaimer as well, and an insight into the writer's journey of writing. So the writer's writing journey is something that the foreword is all about mostly. However, what I would like to discuss are the two excerpts that are placed before the narrative actually begins. So when we open the novel, there are these two excerpts there. Okay, so there are two excerpts right at the beginning of the novel, and one of them is a Dick and Jane excerpt, I would call it, and the other one is a retrospection by this character Claudia. Now, the Dick and Jane excerpt is actually taken from these, readers, or you can say there used to be these readers for American school children, and children would read those readers so that their vocabulary would increase and their reading skills would also improve. However, Morrison, she uses that excerpt at the very beginning of the novel. It is present there in this liminal space. It is neither a part of the novel, nor is it a separate entity, but it is an epitextual entity, I would say. If you want me to explain what epitext is, then very shortly, it is something that is a part of the text, but it also sort of it is sort of a note on the text by the author, but it is also a part of the book as well. So here, this epitext that we have, it actually tells us about a very happy American family, right? Okay, so I'm going to read this excerpt for you, and then I'm going to comment on it because I think that will make a bit more sense. So here it goes. Here is the house. It is green and white. It has a red door. It is very pretty. Here is the family. Mother, father, Dick and Jane live in the green and white house. They are very happy. See Jane. She has a red dress. She wants to play. Who will play with Jane? See the cat. It goes meow meow. Come and play. Come play with Jane. The kitten will not play. See mother. Mother is very nice. Mother, will you play with Jane? Mother laughs. Laugh, mother, laugh. See father. He's big and strong. Father, will you play with Jane? Father is smiling. Smile, father, smile. See the dog. Bow wow goes the dog. Do you want to play with Jane? See the dog ran. Run, dog, run. Look, look, here comes a friend. The friend will play with Jane. They will play a good game. Play, Jane, play. Now, this excerpt is repeated again on the next page. And there is no punctuation. Like the first excerpt was written with proper punctuation marks and everything was clear. That in the next paragraph, the same passage is repeated without punctuation marks. And then the same passage is repeated thrice as well, without any punctuation marks and without any gaps between the words as well. Now, this passage that is placed here very strategically by the author, this can be indicative of so many different things. The first one is that this passage, it seems quite out of place, especially if you read the novel and then come back to it. Then it seems quite jarring. It reads quite jarringly because it is so different from the rest of the text, and the tone of the excerpt is so happy. It is hyper cheerful. So we can say that the writer has used hyperbole in order to accentuate that cheerful tone, so that she can later on contrast it with the actual narrative. Right? She wants this excerpt to stand out in its style, in its composition, and its tone, so that the readers, when they read this excerpt, they know that there is something ironical going on, something that is comical, but it also seems a bit concocted and a bit constructed and a bit fake, I would say. It seems a bit fake. It seems as if it is not okay. Something is not okay with it. However, if we look at the content of the excerpt itself, then we see that there is this overabundance of this happiness. Like I said before, the tone is very cheerful. And the characters in this little excerpt, they're also very happy. They are cheerful. They are happily, talking to each other. They are being their best selves. Jane is the center of this attention of the whole household. Jane's father and Jane's mother are there. They're playing with her. Both of them, the mother is laughing. Laugh, mother, laugh. The father is smiling. Smile, mother, smile, father, smile. You see, so there is this happiness all around. And when we read it for first, I'm talking about myself as a reader here. So when I say we, I actually mean I. So when I read it, I actually, felt this sense of forced happiness that was there. But then this passage, when this is repeated, we see that it just seems a bit off, right? And then it is repeated once again. So this means that it seems as if there is this cassette running, and it is running on and on and on. Like there is this cassette running on loop. So what does this actually mean? Why has Toni Morrison written this? And what does she want to convey to the readers with this excerpt? We can only take a guess, right? And I would say that she has placed this here very, very strategically in order to juxtapose the cheerful tone of this excerpt with the depressing and dark and foreboding tone of the narrative itself. So this text, it serves on different levels. This what do we call it? This epitext. It serves on different levels. The first one is that it provides that juxtaposition, right? The beautiful contrast between happiness and darkness. And the second one is that it provides the reader with this. And the second thing is that it provides the reader with this awareness that there is this ideal image of American household that is sort of forced upon the children who read these kinds of reading materials, right? And not only do they learn the skill of reading, but they also absorb the ideology that comes with it. This ideology of a perfect home, of a perfect family, and how the mother and father are supposed to be, and how many children are they supposed to have, and how they are supposed to interact with the children, and everybody is happy and nobody has any economic issue going on. Nobody is nobody seems to have any other issues going on, any economic issues, any emotional issues, nothing whatsoever. And this excerpt is repeated again and again and again, so that the children who read it, or anybody for that matter, any reader who reads it, they are completely inundated with these ideas, and it helps to condition their minds accordingly. Now, what is the issue with it? One can ask that, what is the issue with presenting a happy family? The issue here is that such narratives that form the grand narratives, whether they are about family, whether they are about the institution of marriage, whether they are about the family systems or the middle class family systems, I would say. The issue with it is that they set up an ideal. They construct this ideal, and then everybody who reads such materials, they compare themselves with these ideals, right? Which can be quite problematic, because we will see that the characters in the novel, they are mostly controlled by their racial realities and by their economic and political realities, and they cannot come out of those systems that cocoon them or that surround them. And for them to have an image of home, a happy home that has money and that has power and that has riches, is something that needs to be deconstructed, because this is an ideal that not everybody can uphold in their family or in their household. And when somebody is unable to meet that standard, they consider themselves to be a failure, just like so many characters in this novel do. Okay, so now we come to the next excerpt before we dive into the actual part, that is Autumn. The next excerpt is written from Claudia's perspective, so that is very, very important. You need to keep in mind that Claudia is one of the main narrators in the novel, so her perspective is important. However, this excerpt is written in retrospection, so when Claudia has grown up. So Claudia is thinking about the fall of 1941, and this is important because now she is a grown-up woman, but before she was a child when the events that she wants to talk about happened. So she says a few things in this excerpt that are very, very important. The first thing that she says is that, so she says, "Quite as it is kept, there were no marigolds in the fall of 1941. So this is very, very important. Why? Because this tone that she adopts, this quietness that she's talking about, this is very, very important because she adopts this conspiratorial, tone when she talks about the fall of 1941. She says that, quiet as it is kept, there were no marigolds in the fall of 1941. Now, this is important because there was such a huge hush hush about what happened to Piccola, and that is why she is, the character, she talks about it from a child's perspective because she experienced all of that, as a child. So here she is referring to that hush hush, she is referring to that quiet, and we get to know that this is something that is, that they had to go through. And towards the end of the novel, we also see how the characters were behaving when they, when they found out about what happened to Piccola. Then another thing that she mentions is that we thought at the time that it was because Piccola was having her father's baby that the marigolds did not grow. So she also makes a huge revelation here, and that is that Piccola was having her father's baby. Now, keeping the structure of the novel in mind, we know that there are four parts to come, right? But the author makes this intentional choice of revealing the very important, climax of the novel before the novel even starts. So this means that the author, this could mean, obviously this could mean 100 different things, but in my opinion, I think it means that the writer wants the readers to become a co-creator of the meaning of the novel, and she is not into hiding, the details. Instead, she is more into revealing what actually happened without sensationalizing it, and she just wants the reader to be a companion in the journey of exploration of these characters, and how, things happen to them, and why they were burdened with such experiences. Because later on we see that Claudia also mentions that there is really nothing more to say except why. But since why is difficult to handle, one must take refuge in how. So this is also very, very important. After making all of these revelations that, Claudia, the no, not Claudia, Piccola was having her father's baby, and that their marigolds did not grow, and how they were so disappointed by all of it. Claudia tries to talk about these traumatic events by saying that we can't really ask why because we can never find the answer to that. But what we can do is try to find out, try to figure out how things happened. And that makes it more easy, and that makes it easy for the reader to also somehow relate to whatever happened to, Piccola.